lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to be talking about such an awesome book. We got the Turtles 40th Anniversary Comic Celebration by an insane amount of talent from across the 40 years of Turtles, including Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman teaming up on a cover, which has not been done in a very long time. Before I get into it, I want to remind everybody, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the dope content on the channel, including none other than an entire playlist dedicated to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who hold a very special place in my heart. I would say the first thing I ever became obsessed with was Ninja Turtles. When that cartoon came out in the early years, it was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater in 1990. I've loved the Turtles ever since. Had all the toys, been reading all the comics. Once I discovered there was, a comic book series that preceded the cartoon and the movie, was blown away then. And I continue to be blown away by the amount of talent that continues to work on Turtles, has over its illustrious 40 years. And this is such a great celebration. We have it broken down. We got the Mirage years. We have the Urban Legends, which, was when Turtles was published by Image Comics briefly. And then we got the Turtle Adventures that was, during the Archie years, Saturday Morning Adventures. We got a story based on the 2003 cartoon series, the 2012 cartoon series, Rise of TMNT, couple IDW stories, and then, of course, we got some pinups by some of the talent that has worked on Turtles. We open up with this Eastman, Laird, and, it says Poe as in Edgar Allan Poe, because there's a Edgar Allan Poe poem that is throughout this story by Eastman and Laird, and just so good. Love seeing this old school style. Love the tones that it's like in blues and black and white. Just very, very cool. And then we end with The Last Ronin, which kind of makes me feel like, okay, so are we kind of admitting that maybe Last Ronin is within the Mirage universe or hinting at it? Who knows? Not super important, but great story. And I won't get too into the details because this is something if you're a Turtle fan, you definitely want to experience yourself. But I did want to show off briefly some of the art, some of the stuff, in case you weren't aware that this is all new content. I know sometimes you see these things and it's like, okay, could it just be reprints from the different eras? But no, this is all brand new, including one of the artists that worked on Turtles probably more than any other artist besides Eastman and Laird, Jim Lawson, and colored by Steve Levine. Both of the OG creators from the Mirage years. Got a great story with this little kid coming up on Rat King. I just love this. Such a fun story. Seeing the Turtles drawn by Lawson is always a treat. And Steve Levine's colors are just match made in heaven with Lawson. So really cool to see the OG Rat King. The definitely very different than the Rat King that people know from the IDW run. And then we got Tristan Jones and Paul Harmon doing this great story that kind of touches on not just the Mirage years, but kind of all of Turtles, right? We even get this drawing of that's a callback to the original drawing that they did when they were coming up with the concept of the Turtles, talking about how at some point you get moment clarity, your perspective shifts, your view of everything changes. All the stories in talking about it. We got an homage to the cover of Turtles 1. We get some other stuff coming in here, right? We get even so much as, all the different versions of them. They all start to make sense. They're reading comics, calling out like, you look like a marshmallow, calling out to the 80s cartoon. We get a little nice callback to Justice Force, which was the superheroes of the Mirage universe. Seeing the different versions, right? That's the Urban Legends when Raph became Shredder. We get the Rise of the TMNT. We get Ronin. Of course, we get the original Mirage stuff. So just really cool story. Really well done. And, again, they do it in a way that doesn't tie completely fully to Mirage, but, under the Tales of TMNT banner. And then we get a cool story by Gary Carlson, Frank Fosco. And they are doing a story that's set in between TMNT Urban Legends number 6. Now, you can see the Turtles look very different. Donatello's a cyborg. Raph's got the Casey Jones mask. Pretty cool story, even seeing how Donatello could change shapes and stuff. This was a wild version of Turtles. If you have not read it, highly recommend picking up those trades, those collections. Image was publishing in black and white. IDW recollected it republished it under the Urban Legends banner in color as single issues, and eventually Carlson and Fosco were able to finish off the story they didn't finish during when it was at Image. And it's also been collected in trade, so I highly recommend that. Then we get Chris Allan coming back. He was one of the artists one of the main artists of the TMNT Adventures when it was at Archie Comics. Getting to see him come back is like, I mean, just all in the feels. I remember getting those issues as a kid. Those are definitely my first Turtles comics, were the Archie ones, because again, like I said, I didn't discover the Mirage until, a few years. I think I was probably 12 or 13. So just a fun story, like introducing Casey, right? Like Casey, I'm trying to remember like with the cartoon, but I know there was an action figure, but I can't remember if he was on the show for the life of me. I know he was eventually. Yeah, he was definitely introduced on the show, but he never played a pivotal role like he did in the Mirage comics and every other iteration of Turtles that's existed since then in the comics. But cool to see this little interaction between Raph and Casey Jones. And like even like the way Chris Allan draws the pen is like, oh, what's your story, pal? He's all like happy-go-lucky, and slowly the eyes droop. And then he gets on the defensive, pulls out the size. Cool little interaction between April and him. Then we lead straight into Saturday Morning Adventures, which is based on the cartoon that this series was based on, but ties a little more heavily into the aesthetic of the 87 cartoon, whereas this comic definitely branched out. At times it would have a little bit more mature themes, not like super mature, but geared for a little bit older of an audience than maybe the Saturday Morning Adventures is. But this has been a fun series too, definitely hits that nostalgia feel. If you grew up with this cartoon, you're definitely has all the same kind of vibes that you would get from there. I mean, I even love sometimes breaking the fourth wall where he's like, we can't expect to be doing this for the next 40 years. Just a fun story. But this one was super fun. Lloyd Goldfine, Khary Randolph, one of the writers of the shows. Khary is one of the designers of the show, of the Turtles from the show. This series, I remember when it came out, I got my little brother into this cartoon. This was his introduction to Ninja Turtles. And that's the cool thing, is as you'll see throughout this, is there's a Turtles for every era. There's so many generations have been able to find their way into this franchise in different ways. Whether you came in the ground floor with the 80s comics with Mirage, or you came in like me with the 87 cartoon when, I'm watching it from like age 1. The 2003 cartoon, and then you're going to see the 2012 cartoon, the rise of TMNT. We got Mutant Mayhem, right? The IDW comics. Like there's something for everybody. And I have to say that this is probably one of my favorite stories of this, because getting to see Khary Randolph, who's one of my favorite comic book artists, seeing him do Turtles, great group shot here too with Splinter. Then we get the, Ciro Nieli, the showrunner of the 2012 cartoon, coming in doing the story and art. This is a great one too, super fun. This is the series I'm not very familiar with. I've seen sporadically. Definitely a blind spot in my Turtles fandom, I would say. Definitely want to check out this cartoon because I've heard nothing but good things. The story and art on here is so much fun. So everybody will have a blast, even if you're not familiar with the show. Rise of TMNT, another blind spot for me. We got Andy Suriano writing and drawing. This is set 20 years from the end of that show, so you're seeing an older group of Turtles, an older April. Super fun, time travel story. They're sending old Leo back in time, and he interacts with his young self. I mean, a cool little moment, even saying like, oh man, I didn't realize I was that annoying. But, he misses Splinter, so, he wasn't around when Splinter died, so this is the whole point of him going back in time, kind of getting to talk to him. Who doesn't love a good a good time travel story? This one hit home. This nice Father's Day story where we get everybody coming to talk to Splinter, like where he's buried in Northampton. Leo has a great moment. April, Mikey, each one leaving a little piece of something that like a kind of a gift for him, right? Because he touched everybody's lives, not just his own kids, the brothers, but like Casey Jones, Jenica. This Raph moment's super special too, and Donatello coming up and talking to him and bringing him his chrysanthemums, and then this beautiful image of like the stick with their bandanas, with the different mementos that they left. Great story. Then Ronda Pattison does a story here with Pablo Tunica, and we get the Turtles, they're with their new sensei, Shredder, which I think is, one of the more interesting things that we've seen with the Turtles in the the last run of Turtles before the relaunch that's coming out soon. Fun story. Cool to see Ronda kind of flexing her writing muscles. We don't get to see that. She's always coloring the book. So fun story from her. And then we get this Freddie Williams pinup. We get the David Peterson pinup. Ken Mitchroney pinup. Dan Duncan pinup. Ronda Pattison she illustrates a pinup as well, which is super cool. Sophie Campbell. And then Jody Nishijima on the last one, on that one. And then we got Stan Sakai with his own character. We got Usagi Yojimbo making a guest appearance, who has long been tied to the Turtles. And then look at those covers. Super cool that they were, the decades. We got the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, a Golden Age variant, which is pretty cool, a 40th anniversary, and then a bunch of retailer incentives and a con exclusive cover too. Look at that logo too. Love this 40th anniversary logo. But that's it. That's the 40th anniversary comics celebration of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Didn't want to give too much away in terms of like how the stories were. I just wanted to show them off. I really think this is something that any Turtles fan would want to experience a little more firsthand as opposed to like getting all the little details. But great comic. Highly recommend it. Check out the Turtles playlist on the channel and stay tuned for the relaunch of TMNT. Jason Aaron, Joel Jones will be doing a video on that soon as well. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.